I have just found another channel called Jonathon Was Wrong. And he's right. He was wrong. If you know what I mean. I think that's right. So having found Jonathon Was Wrong's channel, I had a flick through his videos and I found one entitled Penguins Did Not Choose to Be Penguins. Well, I think we need a bit more information about that, Jonathon. Tell us, please, what your concern is about penguins and whether they want to be or not.
Hey tubes, Jonathon's Wrong here, Truth and Budget. So just real quick,
Well, if I can stop you there a second, you portrait princess. Instead of filming like that, just go like that. And it will fit the screen. Much nicer to watch. It's not difficult, you know.
one of those things that bothers me when people talk about evolution and stuff, they talk about, whales and dolphins returning to the sea.
Yes, because whales and dolphins having returned to the sea is damn good evidence for evolution.
Mammals choosing to return to the sea.
Whoa there, Cupcake! Choosing to return to the sea. Methinks that you do not have a handle on evolution.
There's more than fish in the ocean.
Jonathan, I think perhaps you misheard your mother. She was saying there's plenty more fish in the sea after yet another woman ran away from you.
There's tons of stuff. There's mammals, there's birds, there's lizards.
Well, I think instead of thinking of relationships with birds, lizards and mammals, perhaps what you need to do is get out a bit, try socialising and see if you can meet a nice girl. Or boy, if that's the way you swing.
There's insects.
Stop that. That's getting weird.
Like, a lot of stuff lives in the ocean.
Oh, are we getting back on point? Yes, lots of life in the oceans.
It just mainly fish.
Well, with an estimated biomass of between 0.8 and 2 billion tonnes, fish do make up a very large part of the life in the ocean. However, it's also believed that a greater amount may be made up by copepods. Tiny little critters, but there's an awful lot of them.
Just like mainly birds live in the air. There's a few flying mammals, like there's a few flying lizards, or mostly gliding as far as, mammals and the lizards go. But, certain types of creatures dominate certain areas.
Boom. Evolution. Survival of the fittest. Those that are fittest to fill a niche are the ones that will dominate that niche.
That has nothing to do with, them choosing to return, or any sort of evolutionary thing.
That's right. Choice has nothing to do with it. Your example of those lizards that glide, it's to enable them to flee predators or to leap to another tree to get more food. Those that are most successful, perhaps with a slightly flatter body, will be the ones more likely to succeed and then pass on their genetics. That is how evolution works.
Because once again, there's no evidence anywhere of there being positive mutations.
Actually, you donut of disbelief, there are. Let me read you this. There's a study that has found protein truncating variants in the apolipoprotein B gene, which is linked to lower triglyceride and LDL cholesterol levels and lowers the risk of coronary heart disease by 72%. This means if those people live longer, there's greater chance of them having children and passing on that gene. That is a positive mutation.
If there's a mutation where someone gets some sort of benefit from it, it's like accidental.
Well, mutations, beneficial or otherwise, are always accidental. You can't choose to suddenly have that gene that lowers your coronary risk of heart disease.
Think about those people with extra limbs, extra fingers and stuff. They're like barely useful. It's like dead flesh hanging off them.
Evolution is not relying on people suddenly growing an extra arm or whatever. It's an accumulation of tiny changes over countless generations. Evolution is slow. I think you might be evolving.
There's no good mutation, especially random mutation, because things are more likely to go bad than good.
Yes, and bad mutations select against you. They get weeded out, leaving any good mutations. Natural selection.
One of those things that irritates me especially is when people are like, "Oh, whales returned to the ocean." No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Not so. Snakes returned. Lizards returned to the ocean. There's penguins. There's penguins in the water. Did they return to the ocean?
Penguins are actually a lovely example. They are returning to the ocean, if you like. There are plenty of seabirds, like gulls, that dive for fish. Penguins are much better at it. They can hold their breath for longer. Those that are more streamlined and can swim faster are the ones that are going to catch the fish. They're the ones that are going to pass on their genetics to the next generation.
No one ever talks about the penguins returning, making that brave decision to return to the ocean like whales and dolphins did.
Whales and dolphins did not choose to return to the ocean. They would have been creatures that spent part of their time in the ocean, like penguins do, but gradually relying less and less on the land, until eventually they abandoned the land altogether.
Who cares? Different areas of nature are dominated by different animals because they're suited better towards it. But that's not evidence of anything other than a fish is better suited for water than most other things.
Well, fish are better suited for water than whales or dolphins are. After all, fish don't need to go to the surface to get a gulp of air. Fish don't need to live birth their young and get them to the surface to take a breath. Fish don't need to worry about giving milk to their young. However, both dolphins and whales have overcome these difficulties. Think of sea turtles. They spend pretty much their entire lives in the sea, but they also must go to the surface to get air. They can drown. Despite spending just about all their time in the ocean, they still need to return to the land to lay their eggs. So if there's no evolution, you must be talking about creation. Not much of a design, is it? Hey, says God, you're going to live your entire life in the ocean. Be careful though, or you might drown. Oh, and just to make things really awkward, when you want to lay your eggs, you're going to have to scramble up the beaches, dig a hole and bury them. No, this is also an indication that turtles had returned to the sea from the land.
A snake can get by in a lot of different terrains, but in a wide open area, they're not as good as something with legs, So snakes should evolve to have legs? No, they never ever did, because they just stick to what they do.
No, snakes are not evolving legs. They don't need them for the niche that they fill. However, they did descend from creatures that had legs, and the vestigial remains of those leg bones can be seen in their skeletons and by spurs which still protrude through the body of some types of snake like these. I know, they're not whales. But guess what, Pumpkin? Whales have a pelvis and vestigial leg bones. And guess what else? Look at that whale's front flipper. What's he got? He's got a radius and an ulna in his arm. And look, he's also got 5 digits, just like us. Now, why do you think that might be? Do you think it might be because somewhere back there we share a common ancestor? Well, Jonathan, I think you got one thing right. That's your channel name. Jonathon was wrong, because you are. Evolution is fact. A wonderful, highly evolved group of people are my lovely patrons. With massive thanks to all my patrons, including new patrons Brian Ramsey, ex-Penguin95, Sharkworks, Stephen York, Uwe Closer, Wee Scott's Dog, Marconius and Jason Ooting, and my newest patrons Kevin Seidel and Doc Brew. Thank you all so very much. Forget any missing link. Jonathon, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Until next time, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.